Risk Assessment Methodology. Documentation and Methodology for Risk Assessment, AML CFT Decision Article 4.1b. Under Article 4.1b of the AML CFT decision, financial institutions, FIs, are required to document their risk assessment procedures comprehensively. The choice of methodology for assessing money laundering, ML, and terrorism financing, TF, risks should be tailored to the size and nature of the business. The rationale behind these methodologies must be documented thoroughly. The risk assessment approach must meet several key criteria to ensure effectiveness and compliance. Essential components of a risk assessment methodology. 1. Data and information sources. Quantitative and qualitative data. Incorporate both types of data to form a complete picture of MLFT risks. Internal meetings and interviews. Engage relevant staff through meetings and interviews to gather insights on risk and controls. Internal questionnaires. Use questionnaires to collect data on risk identification and control measures. Internal audit reports. Review these reports to inform the risk assessment. 2. Alignment with risk appetite and strategy. Management approval. Ensure that the risk assessment methodology reflects the FE's AML CFT risk appetite and strategy, as approved by management. 3. Internal input. Compliance officer input. Include views from the designated AML CFT compliance officer. Other relevant units. Gather input from risk management and internal control units. 4. External information. Risk assessments and reports. Consider information from the National Risk Assessment, NRA, topical risk assessments, and other relevant authorities. International organizations. Incorporate data from sources such as the FATF, MENAFATF, other financial sector regulatory bodies, FSRBs, and the Egmont Group. 5. Risk classification and prioritization. Weighting and classification. Clearly describe how risk factors are weighted and classified into different categories. Prioritization. Prioritize risks based on their impact and likelihood. 6. Risk evaluation. Likelihood and impact. Assess the probability of occurrence and potential impact of identified MLFT risks. Timing. Determine when risks might materialize. 7. Effectiveness of controls. AML CFT controls. Evaluate whether existing controls effectively mitigate risks related to customers, products, services, or transactions. Mitigating measures. Use audit and compliance reports or management information to assess the effectiveness of these measures. 8. Residual risk assessment. Residual risk. Determine the remaining risk after considering the effectiveness of the AML CFT measures. Additional controls. Based on the residual risk and the risk appetite, decide if further controls are necessary. 9. Manual interventions and exceptions. Rationale for exceptions. Document the reasons and circumstances for any manual interventions or exceptions to the model-based risk weightings or classifications. 10. Documentation and communication. Proper documentation. Maintain thorough and accurate documentation of the risk assessment process. Regular updates. Regularly evaluate and update the risk assessment documentation. Communication. Ensure that the risk assessment findings and methodologies are communicated to management and relevant personnel. 11. Testing and auditing. Effectiveness and consistency. Test and audit the risk assessment methodology to ensure it meets statutory obligations and operates consistently.